Thanks for joining us once again. This is Greg. Today, we focus obviously on the fact that Tesla's stock price is down $30 today after UBS gave a sell rating and a price target of $29 or $229 for the stock. And we're $5 from being there. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like some better ideas on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. So, as you know, today has been a colossal disaster. We did a show, as you know, a couple of days ago, and we focused on the fact that Tesla is in a really bad position right now for a number of reasons. The first thing I'd like to cover today is just reviewing, obviously, the headlines on what's going on with the stock price and why. The second thing that I'd like to do is take a short detour into a discussion of oil prices, because 25% of the jobs related to the stock markets are attached to oil. So as the stock market is tailing off and it takes Tesla with it, one of the variables that it's worth looking at is what's the status with oil and how does that affect stock prices, including Tesla's. And then finally, we give a sense of what we think the future is going to look like based on parts 1 and 2. So as you know, we warned you that there's a lot of data emerging suggesting that Tesla's volume of sales, revenue, profits is down at least 45%. Now, is this true? The answer is maybe. One of the variables affecting things is that as Tesla's come out with a refresh of the Model 3 and Model Y, those two refreshes possibly had an impact on consumers electing to delay purchase to see how those vehicles will affect the older models and the pricing of the newer models. So that could be one of the variables. We also know that in Germany, they've eliminated the tax credit, and so that's going to affect sales as well in that arena. So nonetheless, the UBS analysis of the stock price being down is, I think, way not out of line. It makes sense. And obviously the stock price is chased down towards the price target that they actually gave. I found the choice of UBS as a sort of harbinger of where Tesla would be strange, because they have not been a traditional sort of regular reviewer of the stock, and a positive one when they did. So perhaps, they may or may not maintain the impact they've had in that the stock would not stay down. But as we have other entities, including the company, not responding to that downdraft, that sort of southbound price point may become sort of the norm of the space. So next, I'd like to review the oil detour that I told you about and its impact on Tesla. So there's been something called a prisoner's dilemma impact happening to Saudi oil prices over the last, let's say, year and a half. Saudi Arabia, as a way to increase the amount of price we're getting on oil, has reduced their production by somewhere in that 10 to 15% range, with the goal being that if there's less oil on the market, the value of the oil that's being sold will be higher. So they did their duty, and what's happened in response to this is both the United States and some of the other entities around the world, Nigeria comes to mind, have actually increased their production, and therefore they've been enjoying some higher prices. Saudi Arabia is actually in a fairly deep pickle right now. The problem they have is there's a lot of projects that they've been building that cost a lot of money, and they're now paying a dividend as a public company. And so the problem they're having is that I'm told that they need oil prices up in that $100 a barrel zone. And as we know, it was in the early 70s, and now it's heading for $65 a barrel. The question is, how can they get the price up so they can make enough money to cover all the projects that they're doing? And I really don't see this as happening. Mr. Trump keeps saying, drill, baby, drill. But the problem with drilling more is you have more oil. More oil equals lower prices. So we're now in a very, I want to say, strange situation where there's a large number of producers of oil who want to sell as much as they can now before the price of oil continues to fall. Now, last I checked, we were at about $67 a barrel. Right around $60 a barrel is where shale oil producers, it's not economical for them to drill new wells. So what tends to happen at this point is that the number of new wells being drilled should decline, and that decline in the number of wells, in theory, reduces the amount of oil being produced, and therefore it should help in terms of dropping value of oil based on the amount that's being drilled. So we're in kind of a tricky spot here. Yes, we're going to see lower oil prices for consumers as they go to the pumps, but we're also seeing, again, 25% of the jobs that make up the Dow are related to oil or oil services. So as those prices fall, the stock prices of those entities are falling, and we also have all the Halliburtons and service companies are going to have to start laying off people based on the fact that you have lower prices and the producers don't want to do any more drilling when we're in the low price zone. The other problem that's sneaking in right now is that China has as much as 3 trillion units of built out housing with nobody to occupy them. And so their efforts in the past that created all these units included all of the materials, including oil, related to doing this construction. As they've pulled back and don't have the construction jobs or other jobs related to them anymore, all of a sudden we're in a position where they don't need as much oil. And so not only do we have increasing oil production now from OPEC, we also have declining oil consumption by economies that are not doing well. And I think the US could enter the realm of lower oil consumption as well. And then let's even throw in the fact that we're headed out of the winter into the spring, which means less oil produced, needed for heating, etc. So the thing I've been watching as a harbinger for oil for the last multiple years has been how many new entities, for example, Guyana is coming in with about 500,000 barrels a day, and then as of next year this time, they're going to be heading towards 1 million barrels a day that are being produced and shipped into the global oil markets. And so the number of sort of new sources, be it South Africa, Angola, Guyana, etc., and even OPEC in the form of 130,000 barrels a day increase in production by them. So there are all these entities that are now increasing the amount of production, but there aren't very many people or any people that are saying we're out of oil or don't know where to find it anymore to put onto the market. That has not been the case. So for those of you who want something to trade, I would argue not only could you trade puts on Tesla declining, we also have this other problem of there's declining oil prices, which is a great short as well, because I think oil ends up at 60 or below here, given all the barrels that we just reviewed. And so I also think this contributes to the stock market dropping, along with all the tech names we know, including Tesla, that are having difficulties currently. So the next thing I wanted to review is, well, what does the future look like in the short term, 3 to 6 months? I actually believe that something's going to happen with Elon in terms of a change of tone, change of process. Everything is going on right now in order to increase sales. They've gone to 0% interest. They've cut price on a number of vehicles. There are all these techniques being used by Tesla and others to try to increase the amount of oil sales or vehicle sales that are going on. So the answer, we're going to find out pretty soon what it is, but obviously it's the disaster we described, and I don't think it ends here, because I don't see how Tesla reignites auto sales given what's going on. Once again, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tous au revoir, Lehik Road, Hoda Hafez, and in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man.